Chapter 6, The Virginia Horton Case, Part 12. The object that touched Virginia was like a massager. It reached out and laid against her leg. It looked to be all metal, with no obvious cutting edges. It was a tubular object which came out of a box-like instrument on the end of a retractable arm. David Stevens, who was abducted in 1975, said that he was lying on a table near a machine that looked square, had lights on the left side of the front, and he had an arm coming out with something at the end of it, kind of like an X-ray machine. And Betty Hill described a device which looked like a letter opener in shape, which scraped over her arm. And the Kentucky abductees remember an elongated bullet-shaped object about 1.5 inches in diameter being placed on their chest. And basically all these witnesses are trying to describe the same equipment. And Ted Blocker listened to the tape of Virginia's hypnotic regression, and he was able to discuss it with Budd. And the Betty and Barney Hill case in 1961, which was published in 1964, was for many years the earliest abduction case which had been investigated by many UFO investigators, that it was accepted by many UFO investigators. But Budd Hopkins was dealing with a case that happened 11 years earlier. And there were other cases that happened earlier than 1961 that came to light. But few cases have been studied using hypnotic regression. And Budd Hopkins was dealing with a case right now that involved a witness that was credible in Virginia, and she was very intelligent, and he had physical evidence, which was the scar that Virginia had. And Budd Hopkins and Ted Blocker had a realization that they were looking at Virginia and Stephen Kilburn, and in both cases, none of them had a recall or a UFO sighting. And they were dealing with a subgroup of people that were UFO witnesses. And it was like an abduction spectrum. And they were dealing with people that say they were abducted, but they had no memory traces of the UFO sighting. Or the UFO sighting, their memory was being suppressed. And also Ted Blocker pointed out that a number of alien sightings over the last decades were made by children, and in many of these cases they were in rural settings. In many cases, children said that they were playing outside, and 1 or 2 small men that were wearing strange silvery or gray customs approached them and then departed as quickly as they appeared. And they were thinking like how many of these cases involve time lapses, that a little kid was playing alone in the afternoon and that same little kid would have not noticed anything. And they began to wonder what were they doing with a 6-year-old kid, and why did they need to take a little piece of the child? Because most of the abduction cases on record involve some kind of sample taking during the examination, whether it was skin, blood, or hair samples.